Hello everybody. Today is Monday and today is another time for another story. It's called The New Doctor and we can begin now. Manuelita's house seemed unusually quiet as Lupe approached it. She wasn't sure why at first. Then when she realized that it was because she did not hear Noche home, screeching, crawling, and chattering. Maybe Manuelita was not at home. Lupe ran the last few steps up to the front and knocked on the door. Still no sounds came from inside of the house. But soon the door opened noiselessly, and Lupe saw Manuelita standing in front of her. Standing in front of her. Noche was perched on her shoulder. His long tail hanging down her back. Manuelita said nothing, but stepped aside for Lupe to enter. "I thought you weren't home," Lupe said. "In a few more ticks, the clock would not have been," Manuelita said, as Lupe walked into the kitchen and saw several small cloth bags lying on the table, large knapsacks beside them. Manuelita began gathering up the bags and putting them inside the knapsack. "You are going to gather herbs," Lupe said. She had seen Manuelita make these preparations before. Manuelita nodded. She turned toward the cupboard to check the contents of a glass jar. Noche almost lost his balance with a turn and fluttered his wings to keep his posture on Manuelita's shoulder. He seemed to know that Manuelita was going out and was making sure he stuck close beside her so that she would not leave him behind. "You will look for summer herbs along the river. May I go with you?" Lupe asked eagerly. "No," Manuelita answered. "I am going to the mountains." Lupe asked, puzzled. There was a bigger variety of herbs along the river than in the mountains. "Yes," Manuelita answered. "I need more orcha. But I brought you some, remember? I gathered it when Maria and I were lost and—" "Yes," Manuelita said, "but I will need more. Much more. Plenty and strong as it is in these mountains here." Lupe wondered why Manuelita thought she would need so much of the herb. She thought all the things it was used for. The root could be boiled for an upset stomach and headaches, or ground the powder and mix the flour with the paste in the chest of the body, aid healing. Sorry, I messed up. The root could be boiled for upset stomach or headaches, or ground up into powder, mixed with flour and paste on the chest of somebody who has a cold or placed on a sore spot on the body to aid heal. The green leaves could be cooked in meat or beans and eaten regularly to stay healthy. Maybe Manuelita thought it was going to be a lot of sickness in the village. But with the new doctor popularity, many people would no doubt go to her with their complaints. Manuelita must know that, too. It didn't make sense. Oh well, Lupa thought. At least Manuelita doesn't seem unhappy. She's still going about her work as usual. She's being her old dependable self. Maybe that is a good sign. Still, Lupa wanted to be with her friend. I will go with you into the mountains, she said. I will have to ask Mama, of course, but I'm sure she knows that you're going. She will. No, Manuelita's voice was firm. I must go alone. But Manuelita reached toward Lupa and held her shoulder. I will go alone, she said, looking deep into Lupa's eyes. But when I come back, you must come to me. Lupa searched Manuelita's face, trying to understand. Yes, of course I will come, she said. Then go play now. There is still time for that. Lupa thought that was a strange thing for Manuelita to say. But Manuelita said many strange things. She did not have time to ask about her. However, because Manuelita had finished packing her knapsack, as was use hearing her out the door. As Lupa started through brush toward the village, she looked back to see Manuelita carrying a knapsack and with Nacha clinging her shoulders. The bird was not making a sound, but was acting as if he dared not to be naughty for fear he would be left behind. By the time Lupa reached the village, her friend Maria had found someone else to play hopscotch with her. They were too far along with the game to add a newcomer. So Lupa walked away from the sandy spot, looking for something else to do on the playground. But she didn't feel like joining them. She just kept walking, and before she realized it, she found herself in the front of a new temporary clinic building. There didn't seem to be any cars around it, and the only activity going on was the noisy construction site for the temporary building and the peek inside for another look. Since the front door was open, just cracked, she tried to see through it. At first, she couldn't see too clearly, so she leaned closer in the door. Just as she did, the door opened from the inside, and Lupa tumbled forward, sprawling on the floor and looking at a pair of sandals. The feet inside the sandals were webbed and gossamer thin nylon hose. Well, what Well, well, what do we have here? Said in a voice from above. Lupa looked up and saw both of her feet, and a voice belonged to Dr. Johnson. The doctor came down on her knees and looked at Lupa. Are you hurt? She asked. No, Lupa said. She jumped up quickly and dusted off. I didn't mean to make you fall. I opened the door to get a breath of fresh air, and I had no idea you were leaning against it. Lupa ducked her head to hide her burning cheeks. Oh, look, the doctor said. You have scraped your knee on the threshold. Let's see what we can do about that. Dr. Johnson led Lupa into the examination room. She took her to the sink and washed her knee with warm soapy water, then rinsed and dried it. Next, she took this red liquid from the shelf, dabbed some of the liquid on her scraped spot. The red medicine caused Lupa's knee to burn furiously, but she did not cry out. She swallowed hard to keep her tears from her eyes. The treatment was very much the same as Manuelita would have given. She would have washed the area and dried it. Sometimes she even used the fiery red medicine you could buy at the grocery store, but more often she would dab a plaster made of OSHA. There, Dr. Johnson said, putting the bottle of medicine away, you have been my first patient, and you have come even before the clinic officially opened. It is open tomorrow. You know, and I've spent all day today trying to get things organized and put away. The doctor sat down at her desk. I faced Lupa. She smiled and said, now tell me, what can I do for you? Did you come for something special? Nothing special, Lupa said in her voice very low. Perhaps were you curious? Lupa nodded her head. I understand, Dr. Johnson said. You have never had a clinic here before, and I suppose you wanted to see what it is like. I would have been the same way at your age. I was curious just about everything, always poking my nose into somebody and often getting in trouble. Lupa looked up at the doctor, surprised. She was trying to imagine her as a little girl poking her nose into things. The doctor was laughing at her memories, and the short curls on her head bounced as she laughed. Lupa found herself laughing with her. What is your name? Dr. Johnson, asked Lupa Montano. What is your name, Dr. Johnson asked. Lupo Montaigne. I'm Dr. Eleanor Johnson. Did I meet you at the reception? I'm sorry, I don't remember, but there was a lot of people there. Lupa shook her head. I wasn't there, she said. Lupa let her eyes roam around the room. Dr. Johnson had placed many things which on the shelves and counters. There were bottles and jars which Lupa thought must contain medicines. But she didn't know what all the storage-looking tools were for. What are those for? Lupa heard herself asking. She was surprised at her own question. She hadn't meant to ask anything, but her curiousness was stronger than her sinuses. "This?" Dr. Johnson asked, picking up one piece of cloth attached to ropes and dials. "This is for taking blood pressure. Look, I'll show you how it works." The doctor wrapped the cloth around Lupa's arm and put something on her ears and placed the end of She put something on her ears and placed the end of it to Lupa's arm. "Also, when I listened here," Dr. Johnson pointed to the thing on her ears, "and look at this." She pointed to the dial. "It helps me find out a little about your body and maybe whether you are well or sick." "What do you hear with that?" Lupa asked, pointing to the thing to the doctor's ears. "This is a stethoscope. And I hear your heartbeat," the doctor said. She let Lupa listen to her own heartbeat. "We will also have x-rays. And on certain days of the week, we have people come here to help me and them. An x-ray takes a picture of the inside of your body." Lupa had heard about x-rays in school, although she had never seen one. Taking a picture from the outside of the inside of a person's body seemed more like witchcraft to her than anything Manuelita had ever done. "Remedies," she said. "It must have taken you a long time to mix them all." "Okay, I didn't make them myself," the doctor laughed. "Then where'd you get them all?" "Why, I borrowed them from the companies that sell medicines. There are many companies that now know how to make medicines much better than I could." Lupa looked at her silently. She wondered how she knew the medicines were good if she did not make them herself. "I'll have a lot of advantages to share with you," Dr. John said. "You won't have to travel all the way to Albuquerque when you are sick, or rely on home remedies when you make yourself that. I don't know most of the time. I'm looking forward to bringing that to all of you. I'm looking forward to being your friend." Dr. Johnson reached her hand towards Lupa's, but Lupa pulled. "I've got to go now," she said. "I forgot to tell my mother where I would be." Lupa ran to the building and ran out of the building and down the road toward her house. She did not want to be friends with the new doctor. Because the new doctor couldn't be Manuelita's friend, the new doctor would not want to have anything to do with the person who mixed her own medicines and did not know how to take pictures of people inside. Manuelita was gone for several days. Lupa began to worry about her. Manuelita had gone out searching for herbs and stayed far into the night and even overnight before. But never had she been gone for this long. Lupa was also concerned because so many people had been going to the clinic. She was afraid they had abandoned Manuelita completely. Worst of all, Lupa felt disloyal and guilty about the amount of time she herself had spent at the new clinic. She couldn't seem to help herself, though. She was factioned about the new medicines and strange instruments, and although he did not like to admit it, but the new doctor herself. One day, when she could One day when she couldn't talk Maria into going with her. Okay, hold on. I'm so bad at this. One day when she couldn't talk, couldn't talk Maria into going with her. Lupa decided to walk over to the clinic alone. She told herself she only wanted to see how the new building was coming along, and perhaps catch a glimpse of Alonzo working. Building coming along. She told herself she only wanted to see how the new building was coming along, and perhaps catch a glimpse of Alonzo working with the big machines she'd heard him talk about. But before long, she was seated on the ground in front of the temporary mobile home clinic, watching people coming and going. If it was someone she knew well enough, she would ask what their ailment was before they went in and what the treatment had been as they came out. Manuelita had been right. The new doctor's medicine was often very different from hers. Finally, when the sun was quite low on the horizon, Dr. Johnson herself came to the door. She took off her white coat and held it across her arm. She was wearing a summer dress made of pretty blue material. It looked nice with her sandals, made of pretty blue material. "Hello, Lupa," she said. "Someone told me we're out of here. Would you like to come in?" Lupa shook her head. You needn't be shy. You needn't be shy," Dr. Johnson said. "You seem to be very interested in the medicine. Wouldn't you like to talk? I enjoy talking to you." "It's getting late. It will soon be time for supper," Lupa said, and she ran toward home. The next time Lupa saw the doctor, it was at the grocery store. Lupa had gone there to get some flour for her mother to make tortillas. This story is to be continued. I love you guys. Have a nice day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, Shotgun.